Tae-young stood at attention in Commander Ralvik's office, his jaw tight. The commander's scaled fingers drummed against the metal desk, creating a sound like rain on a tin roof. Through the window behind him, stars streaked past as the warship Endless Horizon traveled through space at speeds that would have seemed impossible just 2 centuries ago. "You're being assigned a companion," Ralvik said, his voice a low rumble. His yellow eyes studied Tae-young carefully, watching for any reaction. Tae-young kept his face neutral, but inside anger sparked. A companion. Like he was a child who needed supervision. Like humanity couldn't be trusted to function without an alien babysitter watching every move. "With respect, Commander, I don't need one." It wasn't a request. Soldier Ralvik leaned back in his chair. "The companion integration protocol is mandatory for all human personnel in special operations. You'll meet her tomorrow at 0600 hours. Dismissed." Tae-young saluted and left, his boots heavy on the metal floor. In the corridor, he passed 3 Valkyrie officers who stopped their conversation to watch him walk by. He was used to the stares by now. Humans were still new to the Galactic Coalition, still trying to prove they belonged among the stars. Every mistake a human made reflected on the entire species. Every success barely registered. In the barracks, his friend Hyun-woo was cleaning his rifle. He looked up when Tae-young entered, a grin spreading across his face. "Let me guess. You got assigned a companion. How did you know?" "Everyone's getting them. I got mine last week. She's actually pretty cool once you get past the weird telepathy thing." Hyun-woo set down his weapon. "Don't look at it as an insult. Maybe it's an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" "To prove we're not dangerous animals who need handlers." Hyun-woo shrugged. "To prove we can work with anyone. Isn't that what we've been trying to do since we joined this outfit?" Tae-young didn't answer. He stripped off his uniform jacket and lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come easy that night. The next morning, Vela arrived exactly on time. She stood in the briefing room looking nervous, her iridescent scales catching the light in shades of blue and silver. She was smaller than Tae-young expected, maybe 5.5 feet tall, with large, multifaceted eyes that seemed to look at him and through him at the same time. "I'm Vela," she said softly. Her voice had a musical quality, like she was speaking and humming simultaneously. "I'm honored to be your bonded companion." "I didn't ask for a companion," Tae-young replied flatly. Vela's scales dimmed slightly, sign of distress he didn't understand yet. "I know, but I'm here now. We should try to make this work for the next 3 days." They went through standard training exercises together. Vela was quick and intelligent, but she had no combat experience. She flinched at loud noises. She asked too many questions. And worst of all, she kept trying to establish their bond, reaching out with her mind toward his. Each time Tae-young threw up mental walls, refusing the connection. He could feel her presence at the edges of his thoughts, gentle and persistent. But he wouldn't let her in. On the 4th day, they received their first mission assignment. A routine patrol of the frontier rim, checking cargo vessels for contraband and pirate activity. It was boring work, usually. The cargo ship looked normal on the scanners. Tae-young led his team aboard with Vela close behind, her scales shifting to match the dim lighting of the ship's interior. They moved through empty corridors, checking the manifest against the actual cargo. Everything seemed in order until they reached the aft storage bay. The ambush came fast. Pirates had been hiding in shielded containers, and they burst out with weapons blazing. Tae-young's training kicked in instantly. He dropped 2 attackers before they fully emerged, rolled behind cover, and started calling out positions to his team. The firefight was brutal and quick. Vela froze in the middle of the bay, completely exposed. A pirate aimed directly at her. Tae-young didn't think, just moved. He sprinted across open space, grabbed Vela, and threw them both behind a cargo container as energy blasts scorched the air where they'd been standing. "Stay down," he growled, then leaned around cover and fired. His shots were precise, methodical. 1 pirate fell, then another. The rest retreated deeper into the ship. "Team advance," Tae-young ordered. They pushed forward room by room, till the last pirate was either captured or dead. When it was over, Tae-young's hands were shaking from adrenaline. He checked his team. Minor injuries only. They'd been lucky. He turned to check on Vela and found her staring at him with something like horror in her eyes. "Oh, you killed them," she whispered. "They were trying to kill us." "I know." But, double quotes. She touched her chest with a delicate hand. "I could feel it, your rage. Your lack of hesitation? Humans are so violent." Tae-young felt something cold settle in his chest. There it was. The real reason for the companions. Not to help humans integrate, but to monitor them. To make sure they didn't become a threat. "This is what soldiers do," he said quietly. "This is war. If you can't handle it, request a transfer." Vela's scales flickered through several colors, emotions Tae-young couldn't read. She reached out toward his mind again, trying to establish their bond, trying to understand. He slammed his mental barriers shut so hard he could almost hear them snap into place. "Don't," he said. "Don't try to get inside my head. You wanted to see what humans are like? This is it. We survive. We protect our own. And we don't apologize for it." The trip back to the endless horizon was silent. Tae-young filed his mission report while Vela sat in the corner of the shuttle, her scales a dull gray. When they docked, she left without saying goodbye. That night, Hyen-woo found Tae-young in the observation deck. "Staring out at the stars? Heard your first mission got exciting?" "She thinks I'm a monster," Tae-young said. "Did you act like one?" "I acted like a soldier. I saved her life and she looked at me like I was something dangerous that needed to be locked up." Hyen-woo was quiet for a moment. Maybe she's just scared. Her people don't have wars anymore. They solved violence through empathy, through connecting with each other so deeply that hurting someone else hurts them too. To her, what you did probably felt like pure chaos. Then why assign her to a combat unit? Because maybe they need to understand us as much as we need to understand them. Hyen-woo clapped him on the shoulder. "Give it time. Give her time. You saved her life. That's got to count for something." Tae-young wasn't so sure. He watched a distant nebula glow in shades of purple and gold, beautiful and deadly like everything else in space. Somewhere on this ship, Vela was probably writing a report about the violent human she'd been paired with. Another mark against humanity's record. He wondered if they'd ever really belong out here among the stars. Or if they'd always be the dangerous newcomers everyone watched with suspicion. The weight of representing his entire species pressed down on him like gravity from a heavy world tomorrow. They'd have to work together again. Tomorrow he'd have to face those multifaceted eyes and see his own violence reflected back at him. The thought made him tired in a way that had nothing to do with the mission. 3 weeks passed in awkward silence. Tae-young and Vela trained together, ate in the same cafeteria, and shared quarters on deployment, but they barely spoke. She stopped trying to reach out to his mind. He stopped trying to explain himself. They existed in parallel, to people following orders but never truly working together. The endless horizon. Received new orders to investigate the Yulter Nebula, a region of space where 3 coalition ships had vanished without a trace. Sensors didn't work properly in the nebula. Communications got scrambled. It was the kind of place pirates loved and soldiers hated. Hyen-woo caught Tae-young before they shipped out. "You're going to have to talk to her eventually. We communicate during missions." "That's enough. That's not what I mean and you know it." Hyen-woo looked frustrated. "She's trying, Tae-young. She asks me questions about human culture every day. She's learning our language better. She even started eating human food to understand us. She'll report that in her files about dangerous humans. You don't know what she writes in her reports?" "You never asked." Hyen-woo shook his head. "Pride is going to get you killed one day." The nebula was beautiful from the outside, all swirling purple and blue gases lit by dying stars. Inside, it was like flying blind. The ship's sensors flickered constantly. Strange readings appeared and disappeared. Everyone was on edge. They found the first missing ship 3 days into the search. It was drifting, dead in space, hull breached in dozens of places. Tae-young's team was sent to investigate. As they approached in their shuttle, Vela finally spoke to him directly for the first time in days. "Something feels wrong here. Everything feels wrong in a nebula. She touched her temples. The electromagnetic fields are chaotic, screaming, like something terrible happened here. Taeyang wanted to dismiss it, but her species could sense things humans couldn't. Stay alert, he told his team. The ship was a graveyard. Bodies floated in corridors, frozen and peaceful. No signs of a fight. No signs of anything. It was like everyone just stopped living at the same moment. Check for bioweapons, Taeyang ordered. Chemical agents. Anything that could cause this. They were deep in the engineering section when it happened. A massive explosion rocked the SH. IP, not weapons fire. Structural failure. The old vessel had been slowly breaking apart in the nebula's strange environment, and their presence triggered the final collapse. Metal shrieked and tore. The corridor behind them vanished in a cloud of debris and venting atmosphere. Taeyang grabbed Vila and ran, but they weren't fast enough. A bulkhead slammed down between them and the rest of the team. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in red. Team report. Taeyang spoke into his cum, but got only static. The nebula was blocking the signal. Vila checked her scanner. We're sealed in. This section has power, but life support is failing. We have maybe 3 hours of air. Taeyang examined the bulkhead. It was designed to withstand hull breaches. They weren't cutting through it with anything they carried. He tried to come again. Nothing. They were trapped. The team will find us, he said, more confident than he felt. Vila's scales had turned a pale, sickly color. They tried everything. Cutting through walls, finding alternate routes, signaling with their equipment, but the section they were trapped in was isolated, surrounded by vacuum on 3 sides. 2 hours passed, then 2.5. The air was getting thin. Taeyang's head ached. Vila was breathing rapidly, her scales flickering between colors. I'm sorry, Taeyang said finally. This is my fault. I should have been more careful. It's not your fault. Vila leaned against the wall, exhausted. I'm sorry too. I've been terrible to you. After that first mission, I was scared. But fear isn't an excuse for treating someone badly. You weren't wrong to be scared. We are violent. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We're good at it because we've had so much practice. Vila looked at him with those strange, beautiful eyes. Can I tell you something? My reports to the commander haven't been about how dangerous you are. They've been about how lonely you are. All of you. Every human on this ship. You carry this weight, this need to prove yourselves, and it crushes you. I can feel it even when you block the bond. Taeyang didn't know what to say. The air was getting worse. His vision blurred at the edges. We're going to die here, Vela said quietly. But maybe we don't have to die as strangers. What do you mean? I can share my oxygen reserves. My species can hold our breath much longer than yours. We can also transfer oxygen through direct contact if we're bonded. I could give you half of what I have. It might buy us another hour. That would kill you. It would kill me to watch you die when I could have helped. She moved closer. But it requires the bond. You have to let me in. We have to synchronize our breathing, our heartbeats. I can't force it. You have to choose. Taeyang's mind raced. He'd kept everyone out for so long. The idea of letting someone see inside him, see all his fears and failures, terrified him more than dying. But Vila was looking at him with such hope, such trust, even after everything. Okay, he whispered. Show me how. Vela took his hands. Her scales were cool against his skin. Close your eyes. Lower your walls. Let me in. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done. Dropping his mental defenses felt like standing naked in front of an enemy. But he did it. He opened his mind and felt Vela rush in like a warm tide. Everything flooded between them at once. Taeyang felt her fear of him transform into understanding. She felt his loneliness transformed into connection. He experienced her memories of growing up on a world of constant empathy, where everyone understood everyone else without words. She experienced his memories of Earth, of fighting to survive, of joining the military to give his life meaning, and deeper, Beneath the surface thoughts, they felt each other's core. Vila's endless curiosity and compassion. Taeyong's fierce loyalty and determination. They were so different, but somehow those differences fit together like puzzle pieces. The bond snapped into place. Taeyong gasped. He could feel Vila inside his mind, not as an intruder, but as a presence that had always been meant to be there. Their heartbeats synchronized. Their breathing matched. She began sharing her oxygen, and he could feel the strain it put on her body as if it were his own. "I've got you," he thought, and knew she heard him. "I know," she thought back. They waited together. Truly together now, while the air slowly ran out. But somehow, it didn't feel frightening anymore. Taeyong wasn't alone. Neither was Vela. When the rescue team finally cut through the bulkhead an hour later, they found Taeyong and Vela sitting side by side, hands clasped, breathing in perfect unison. Hyeonwoo pulled them both out into fresh air. "You okay?" he asked. Taeyong looked at Vela. Through the bond, he felt her exhaustion, her relief, her joy at being alive. She looked back at him and smiled. "Yeah," Taeyong said. "I'm okay." Back on the endless horizon, things changed. Taeyong taught Vila how to fight, really fight, not just theory, but practical combat. She taught him how to meditate, how to sense the electromagnetic songs that filled the universe. Melodies he'd never known existed. Through the bond, they shared everything. Meals became conversations about their worlds. Training became a dance, where each knew what the other would do before they did it. Hyeonwoo noticed immediately. "You're different," he said one day. "I'm not alone anymore," Taeyong replied, and realized it was true. 3 days later, an emergency signal reached the ship. A coalition science vessel was under attack near a region called the Veil, mysterious boundary that had been forbidden for centuries. The message cut off mid-transmission, placed by static and something that sounded like screaming. Commander Ralvik addressed the entire crew. "We're the closest ship. We go in fast, we get them out. But understand this, no one knows what's on the other side of the veil. The founders of the coalition sealed it for a reason." Taeyong felt Vila's worry through the bond. He squeezed her hand. Together, they were ready for anything. Or so they thought. The veil looked like someone had torn a hole in reality and filled it with liquid light. It stretched across space in a shimmering barrier that made Taeyong's eyes hurt when he looked directly at it. Through the bond, he felt Vila's scales crawling with uncomfortable energy. The electromagnetic fields here were wrong, twisted, screaming in frequencies that shouldn't exist. The science vessel drifted near the barrier, broken and dark. No life signs. The endless horizon approached carefully. Weapons charged, every sensor straining to understand what they were seeing. "There's debris everywhere," Hyeonwoo reported from his tactical station. "Not just from our ship. There are pieces of something else. Something organic." Commander Ralvik's scaled face was grim. "All teams to battle stations. Something came through the veil, and we need to be ready when it comes back." They didn't have to wait long. The veil rippled like water disturbed by movement below the surface. Then ships emerged. No, not ships. Things. Creatures. They looked like someone had. Mixed machine and animal and nightmare into forms that hurt to look at. They moved wrong, flowing through space like oil through water, their hulls pulsing as if breathing. "What are those?" Someone whispered. G-Woo, the chief science officer, stared at her screens with wide eyes. According to the database, they shouldn't exist. The coalition founders encountered something like this millions of years ago and sealed them beyond the veil. They were called devourers. The things opened fire. Their weapons were as strange as they were. Beams of energy that seemed to age whatever they touched, corroding metal and flesh in seconds. The endless horizon returned fire, but the devourers moved too fast, too unpredictably. "All fighters, launch," Ralvik commanded. "Focus fire on the lead ship." Taeyong ran for the hangar bay with his team, Vila right beside him. They jumped into a dropship with Hyeonwoo piloting. As they launched into space, Taeyong felt the bond pull tight with fear and determination. Through Vila's senses, he could feel the Devourers approaching. Their electromagnetic signatures all wrong, like holes in the universe. There. Vela pointed. 3 incoming from above. Taeyong saw nothing on his screens, but he trusted the bond. Hyenwu. Evasive pattern delta. Now. Hyenwu pulled hard on the controls without question. A second later, 3 Devourer fighters screamed through the space where they'd been. Their weapons tearing past so close that alarms shrieked. How did you know? Hyenwu gasped. She knew. Taeyong locked onto one of the enemy fighters. I'm taking the shot. He fired, but through the bond, he felt Vila reach out with her electromagnetic sense. Feeling where the enemy would be, not where it was, she guided his aim without words, just pure shared intention. The shot connected. The Devourer fighter came apart in a burst of strange, oily fire. The battle became a dance. Vila sensed. Taeyong acted. Together they were faster, more precise than any single pilot could be. They took down 2 more fighters before rejoining the main fight. But they were losing. The Devourers were overwhelming. For every enemy destroyed, 2 more emerged from the veil. The endless horizon was taking heavy damage. Ships exploded around them. People were dying. All units, fall back. Ralvik's voice was strained. We can't win this. Retreat to minimum safe distance. The coalition ships pulled back, and the Devourers didn't pursue. They simply held position near the veil. Waiting. Watching back on the endless horizon, the crew worked frantically to repair damage and treat the wounded. Hyenwu had taken shrapnel to his leg during a hit. Medical teams worked on him while he cursed and insisted he was fine. Jiwoo called an emergency meeting with the senior staff. Taeyong and Vila were included because of their performance in the battle. The science officer looked exhausted and terrified. I've been analyzing the data from the destroyed science vessel, she said. They discovered something before they died. The veil isn't natural. It's a seal, created by the ancient coalition species using technology we don't understand, and it's failing. She brought up a hologram showing cracks spreading through the barrier. In 3 months, maybe less, the seal will collapse completely. When that happens, the full Devourer fleet will come through. What we fought today was just a scouting party. The main force numbers in the thousands. The room was silent. Commander Ralvik's claws drummed on the table. Can we repair the seal? No, we don't have the technology. Jiwoo's voice shook. But the science vessel found something else. There's a structure beyond the veil, an ancient station, where the weapon that created the seal was built. If we could reach it, if we could activate it again, we might be able to reinforce the seal, or even push them back permanently. You're suggesting we cross the veil? Ralvik sounded incredulous. Every ship that's tried has been destroyed or driven mad. The space beyond doesn't follow normal physics. Time and distance mean nothing there. I know, but it's our only chance. Gu looked around the table. I need a small team. Fast. Quiet. A stealth ship that can slip through while the Devourers are distracted. Taeyong felt Vila's decision through the bond before she spoke. We'll go. Absolutely not, Ralvik said. You're soldiers, not explorers. We're bonded, Vela replied. That connection might be the only thing that keeps us sane in there. The space beyond the veil destroys individual minds, but a shared mind might survive. We have to try. Taeyong nodded. She's right. And you need fighters who can work in perfect sync. That's us. Ralvik looked at them for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. Hyenwu, your tactical lead. Sir, I can barely walk. Hyenwu protested from his medical bed. Then you'll limp. I need someone I trust keeping these 2 alive. Ralvik turned to Giwu. You'll go too. We'll need your scientific expertise. Assemble a team. You leave in 6 hours. Those 6 hours passed too quickly? Taeyong sat with Vela in their shared quarters, feeling her fear and his own mixing through the bond until he couldn't tell which belonged to whom. We might not come back, she said quietly. I know. I'm glad I bonded with you. Even if this is how it ends. Taeyong took her hand. Her scales were warm now, cycling through colors that meant affection and trust. We're not done yet. We're going to find this weapon. We're going to stop them. Such confidence. Is that a human thing? It's a hope thing. And hope is the most human thing there is. The stealth ship was small, built for speed and sensor evasion. Besides Taeyong Vila, Hyan-woo, and Ji-woo, there were 3 more soldiers. Dayun, a tough marine who'd made no secret of her distrust of aliens. Kenji, a pilot with cybernetic implants. And Marcus, an explosives expert. They launched while the endless horizon created a diversion. Drawing the Devourers away from the veil, the stealth ship slipped through, and the universe went insane. Space twisted. Time felt like it was moving forward and backward simultaneously. Taeyong saw Vela as she was, as she'd been as a child, as she might be as an elder, all at once. He felt the bond stretch and strain, threatening to snap under the pressure of impossible physics. Hold on to each other. Gi-woo shouted. Don't let go of who you are. Taeyong grabbed Vela physically and mentally, anchoring himself to her, and her to him. Through the bond, they were solid. Real. Together, they could withstand this. The rest of the team clustered around them, drawing strength from their connection. Then they were through. Space was normal again, or as normal as anything beyond the veil could be. And ahead, massive beyond belief, floated a station. It was ancient, made of materials that shouldn't exist, covered in symbols that hurt to read. This was the Nexus, the place where the first coalition had built their weapon. Reading power signatures, Kenji reported. It's still active. Barely. Then let's hope we can wake it up, Hyan-woo said, checking his weapons despite his injured leg. Because we've got company. The Devourer ship had followed them through the veil. It was bigger than their stealth ship, and it was moving to intercept. They had minutes before it reached them. Get us to that station now, Taeyong commanded. The race was on. The stealth ship shook as Devourer weapons tore through the space around them. Kenji pushed the engines to maximum, racing toward the massive ancient station while Taeyong returned fire from the rear guns. Through the bond, he could feel Vela calculating angles and distances, her electromagnetic sense showing him exactly where to aim. Every shot counted.
Only 30 seconds to docking.
Kenji called out. A blast hit their port side. Alarm shrieked. The ship tumbled, but Kenji corrected, bringing them in hard and fast toward an ancient docking port. They connected with a metal screech that sounded like bones breaking. The Devourer ship was right behind them. Go, go, go. Hyan-woo limped toward the airlock, weapon raised. The team poured into the station, finding themselves in corridors that defied geometry. The walls seemed to shift when not looked at directly. Gravity changed directions randomly. It was ancient beyond measure and still alive with some kind of awareness. Dayun grabbed Taeyun's arm. What is this place? Our only chance. Move. They ran deeper into the station as the Devourer ship docked. Ji-woo led them, following her scanner toward the strongest power readings. Behind them, they could hear things boarding, not footsteps. Something wet and sliding, accompanied by sounds that might have been breathing or might have been the station. Itself responding to the intruders, the corridor opened into a massive chamber. In the center stood a structure of crystalline material that pulsed with inner light. Around it, holographic displays flickered to life, showing symbols and equations. Gi-woo ran to the nearest console, her fingers flying. This is it. The resonance chamber. This is where they built the weapon that sealed the Devourers. Can you activate it? Hyan-woo positioned the team at the entrance, ready for the enemy pursuit. I'm trying, but the interface is in a dead language from species that went extinct millions of years ago. It's going to take time. Time was something they didn't have. The Devourers reached the chamber entrance. They were horrifying up close. Things that looked like they'd once been different species but had been consumed and reformed into something wrong. They moved like water flowing uphill, defying physics and reason. The firefight was brutal. Marcus threw charges that barely slowed the creatures. Dayun's heavy weapons tore them apart, but they just reformed, pulling themselves back together from scattered pieces. Taeyong and Vila fought as one, moving in perfect sync, their bond allowing them to cover each other's blind spots without speaking. Got it. Gi-woo shouted over the noise of battle. I'm accessing the logs. The resonance was a weapon powered by bonds between species. The more different the bonded species, the stronger the power. They used it to seal the devourers, but... Her voice trailed off as she read more. Oh no, what? Taeyong shot a devourer that was climbing the walls. What's wrong? Activating it requires a bonded pair to channel the energy, and the power required to seal the veil permanently would burn out their neural pathways. It's a suicide weapon. The chamber went quiet except for the sound of weapons recharging and labored breathing. Through the bond, Taeyong felt Vila's shock and fear. He also felt her resolve. Then we do it, Vila said. Taeyong and I, we're bonded. We activate the resonance. No. Dayun stepped forward, her face hard. No one's dying for this. There has to be another way. There isn't, Ji-woo said softly. I've checked every file. This is the only option. Dayun turned to Taeyun and Vela, and something in her expression was raw, almost angry. You're really willing to do this? To die for aliens? For a coalition that barely accepts humans? We're dying for everyone, Taeyong replied. Human, alien, it doesn't matter. The devourers will consume everything if we don't stop them. Of course you'd say that. You're brainwashed by that bond. Do-yoon gestured at Vila. That thing in your head making you care about species that aren't your own. It's not natural. Humans should look after humans first. Taeyong felt Vila flinch through the bond. Before he could respond, Dayun continued, her voice rising. I've watched you change. Watched you stop being human? That bond turned you into something else, something that cares more about an alien than your own people. It's disgusting. That's enough, soldier, Hyan-woo warned. Oh, it's not. We need to find another way. Sacrifice some aliens if we have to, but not humans. Not one of our own for them. The words hung in the air like poison. Taeyong started to speak, but Vela moved first. She walked straight to Dayun, who raised her weapon instinctively. Don't come near me, alien. Please, Vela said softly. Let me show you. Just for a moment. Let me show you what the bond really is. Stay back. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want you to understand. Vila's scales rippled with colors that meant peace, meant openness. You're scared. I can feel it without even bonding with you. Scared of losing who you are? Scared that caring about others means betraying your own. Let me show you that's not true. Ayun's weapon shook. For a moment, Taeyong thought she might fire. Then, slowly, she lowered it. 1 second, Dayun said. You get 1 second. Vela reached out and touched Dagun's temple. The bond formed instantly, temporary but intense. Do-yoon gasped, her eyes going wide. Through his own bond with Vila, Taeyong felt echoes of what Dayun was experiencing. The overwhelming sense of connection, understanding that crossed all barriers of language and culture, the feeling of being seen, truly seen, by another mind. And beneath it all, the realization that caring about others didn't diminish you. It expanded you. Made you more, not less. Vila broke the connection. Dayun staggered back, tears streaming down her face. I felt... She couldn't finish the sentence. I felt everything. Your fear, your love for him, your hope for all of us. I felt human, Vela said gently. You felt human, because caring about each other, about everyone, that's what makes any species worth saving. That's what the Devourers lost. They cut themselves off from everyone else and became monsters. We won't let that happen to the galaxy. More Devourers poured into the chamber. The team opened fire, but they were being overwhelmed. Hyunwoo went down with a blast to his chest. Marcus dragged him to cover while Dayun laid down suppressing fire. Something changed in her face, in her eyes. The resonance chamber is ready. Gu called, but there's something else. I found a modification in the later logs. If we can distribute the energy across multiple bonded pairs instead of just one, It might work without killing anyone. But we'd need dozens of pairs, all connected at once. We only have one bonded pair here, Kenji pointed out, still firing at the entrance. No. Giwu's face lit up with desperate hope. The station has broadcast capabilities. The ancients used it to coordinate bonds across entire fleets. If I can boost the signal through the veil, back to the endless horizon, crew would have to accept the bonds, Vela said. All of them, voluntarily. Species that have never bonded with anyone would have to open their minds to strangers. Would they do it? Daiyun asked. Would they really trust each other that much? Taeyong thought about his time on the endless horizon. The distrust. The careful distance everyone kept from each other. The way humans were watched like potential threats. I don't know, he admitted, but we have to try. The Devourers were at the chamber entrance, too many to count. Hyeon-woo struggled to his feet despite his injury, blood soaking through his uniform. Then we buy you time, he said. Everyone, defensive positions. Nothing gets through. Giwoo ran to activate the broadcast system. Taeyong and Vila moved to the resonance chamber, hands clasped. Through the bond. They felt each other's fear and determination blend into one emotion that was bigger than both of them. Whatever happens, Taeyong said. Lie together, Vila finished. They stepped into the chamber. Energy crackled around them. Giyu's fingers flew across ancient controls, trying to boost the signal, trying to reach through the veil to the endless horizon, and the crew that might be their only hope. The Devourers broke through the defensive line. Weapons fire lit up the chamber. And somewhere beyond the veil, a signal carried through impossible space, reaching out to thousands of minds with a simple message: trust us. Open your minds. Save the galaxy together. The question was whether anyone would answer. Energy surrounded Taeyong and Vela, making their skin crawl and their minds buzz with static. The resonance chamber hummed with ancient power, building toward activation. Through the bond, they could feel it wanting to surge through them, to use them as a channel for forces that could tear reality itself apart. Jiwoo's voice cracked over the cum. Signal is through the veil. The endless horizon is receiving. I'm patching you through now. Taeyong's cum crackled to life. Commander Ralvik's voice came through, distorted but clear enough. This is insane. You're asking my crew to let alien minds into their heads, to trust species they barely know? We're asking them to choose, Taeyong said, watching Devourers pour into the chamber while his team fought desperately to hold them back. We're asking them to choose connection over fear. Please, Commander. We can't do this alone. Even if I ordered it, the bond doesn't work through commands. They have to choose freely. Hundreds of individuals from dozens of species, all deciding to trust each other in the same moment. It's never been done. Then we'll be the first. Vila's voice was steady, despite the fear Taeyong felt through their bond. Please, give them the choice. Silence. Then Ralvik spoke again, his voice broadcasting to the entire ship. All crew, this is your commander. The team beyond the veil has found a way to seal the Devourers permanently, but it requires something unprecedented. It requires all of us to form temporary bonds with each other, to open our minds completely, to trust absolutely, or silence. Taeyong could imagine the crew's reaction. Species that had never bonded with anyone suddenly asked to let strangers into their most private thoughts. I cannot order you to do this, Ralvik continued. It must be your choice. But know this. If we fail, the Devourers will consume the galaxy. Every world, every species, everything we love will be devoured. The human Taeyong and the Quillian Vela are willing to sacrifice everything for all of us. The question is, are we willing to trust each other enough to save them? Static. The energy around the chamber built higher, becoming painful. They were running out of time. If no one answered, Taeyong and Vela would have to channel the full power alone. They would die, but maybe they could still seal the veil. Through the bond, Taeyong felt Vela's acceptance of that fate. He sent back his own acceptance, mixed with gratitude that he wouldn't die alone. Then Hyeon-woo's voice came through the cum, weak but determined. I'll do it. I'm opening my mind. Come on, you cowards. Trust them. Trust us. One mind opened on the endless horizon. Taeyong felt it like a spark in the darkness. Then nothing. No one else joined. His heart sank. Then another voice spoke over the cum. It was Kenji's companion, back on the ship. I accept. I'm ready to bond. Another spark. Then another. A Valkyrie officer opened their mind. Then a human engineer. Then 3 more. Then a dozen. The sparks multiplied, spreading like fire through the crew of the endless horizon. Species that had never trusted each other suddenly choosing connection over isolation. On the ancient station, Giwu watched her readouts with tears streaming down her face. It's working. 70 bonds formed. 100. 150. They're doing it. In the chamber, the Devourers were 10 feet away. Marcus was out of explosives. Diyun's weapon clicked empty. Kenji took a hit to the shoulder and went down. The creatures reached for them with appendages that shouldn't exist. Got 200 bonds. Ji Woo shouted. 250. The entire crew is bonding. The energy around Taeyong and Vila suddenly multiplied. Instead of flowing through just 2 minds, it began distributing across hundreds. He felt connections snap into place like a vast web spreading across space, each node a bonded pair. Each connection a thread of shared trust and understanding. Through the network, Taeyong felt species he'd never met. He experienced the memories of a Velker who remembered losing their home world to war. He felt the hopes of a young engineer who dreamed of exploring beyond known space. He touched the mind of a grizzled soldier who'd fought in 100 battles and just wanted peace. And they felt him. They felt his determination, his loyalty, his very human refusal to give up even when all seemed lost. And Vela. Everyone felt Vela's compassion, her endless capacity to see the good in others. Her belief that connection was the highest form of existence. The bonds multiplied beyond the endless horizon. Other ships in the area felt the signal and chose to join. Thousands of minds linking together in a moment of perfect trust. Species that had been enemies years ago, now opening themselves completely to each other. Now. Ji Woo screamed. Activate the resonance now. Taeyong and Vela reached for the power together. It flowed through them, but instead of burning them away, it distributed across the entire network. Every bonded pair took a fraction of the load. The energy was still immense, painful, pushing everyone to their limits. But together, they could bear it. The resonance fired, not as a weapon, but as a wave of pure intention backed by the combined will of thousands. It swept across space, through the veil, and struck the barrier like the hammer of a god. The ancient seals, cracked and failing, suddenly blazed with new life. The veil rippled and strengthened. Cracks sealing themselves as fresh power poured through the network. The Devourers in the chamber shrieked. Their forms became unstable, unable to exist in the presence of so much connection, so much unity. They dissolved like smoke in wind. On the other side of the veil, the entire Devourer fleet was pushed back, forced away from the barrier as it solidified and strengthened. Through the network, Taeyong felt every being who had joined the bond. He felt their relief, their joy, their wonder at what they'd just experienced. For one transcendent moment, thousands of individuals from dozens of species weren't separate. They were one vast consciousness, diverse but unified, understanding each other completely. Then, slowly, the bonds began to dissolve. Not breaking, but transforming. Each pair retained a ghost of their connection, a permanent echo of what they'd shared. They would never be strangers again. The energy faded. Taeyong and Vila collapsed to the chamber floor, exhausted beyond measure, but alive. Around them, their team lay scattered, breathing hard, but intact. The Devourers were gone. The veil blazed with renewed strength, a barrier that would hold for millennia to come. Jiwoo's laugh was half-sob. We did it. We actually did it. Dayun crawled over to Taeyong and Vela, her face transformed by what she'd experienced through the network. I felt everyone. I felt what it's like to be you, to be bonded. She shook her head in wonder. I understand now. I understand everything. Welcome to the other side, Vila said weakly, managing a smile. The trip back through the veil was easier. The network had changed them all, made them more resilient. When they emerged into normal space, the endless horizon was waiting along with a dozen other coalition ships. Every crew had participated in the bond. Every ship now carried people who understood each other in ways that had never been possible before. Commander Ralvik met them in the docking bay. The stern commander who'd always kept everyone at distance looked different now. Softer somehow. More open, what we experienced, he said quietly. I've lived 300 years and never felt anything like that. To truly understand another being. To be understood? He looked at Taeyong and Vela. You showed us what's possible. Thank you. The next weeks were a blur of debriefings, medical examinations, and celebrations. News of what happened spread through the coalition like wildfire. The Companion Integration Protocol was renamed the Unity Program and expanded to all species on a voluntary basis. Thousands signed up, eager to experience what those who'd participated in the network had felt. Bonds between different species became common. Not just military pairs, but scientists, artists, families. The barriers that had separated the coalition's species for millennia started to crumble. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts and disagreements, but now there was understanding beneath the differences. Humanity's status changed overnight. The probationary period was ended. Humans were granted full membership in the coalition, but more importantly, they were no longer seen as dangerous outsiders. They were recognized for their unique strength, the ability to form deep connections, even with those completely different from themselves. Where some species saw danger and difference, humans saw possibility. 3 months after the Veil incident, Taeyong and Vela stood on an observation deck, watching a group of new recruits meet their companions for the first time. Hyanwu was there as an instructor, his wounds healed. Dayun stood beside him, now one of the program's strongest advocates. Hard to believe it started with us, Vela said, her scales shifting through peaceful colors. We didn't start it, Taeyong replied. The ancients started it when they built the resonance. They understood that connection was the most powerful force in the universe. We just reminded everyone. What do we do now? Taeyong squeezed her hand, feeling the bond between them hum with contentment. We keep doing what we do. We show people what's possible. We build bridges. Very philosophical for a soldier. I learned from the best. Through the window, a new bonded pair was forming. A human and an alien whose species had been enemies in the last war. Now choosing to trust each other, to open their minds, and form a connection that would change them both forever. Do you think it will last? Vela asked. This unity, or will we fall back into old patterns? I don't know, Taeyong admitted. But I know this. Thousands of beings chose trust over fear. They chose connection over isolation. That's not something you can undo. We felt each other. Really felt each other. You can't go back to being strangers after that. Vila leaned against him, comfortable and content. The galaxy is changing because we changed it together. Below them, more pairs bonded. Humans and aliens, once suspicious of each other, now choosing to become something greater than the sum of their parts. The Unity program was growing, spreading across the coalition like a new kind of consciousness. Not replacing individuality, but connecting it. Weaving millions of separate minds into a tapestry of shared understanding. The Devourers had shown what happened when beings chose isolation. When they cut themselves off from everything different, they became monsters. The coalition had nearly gone the same way, species living side by side but never truly together. But that was changing. One bond at a time, the galaxy was being remade. Not through force or law, but through the simple choice to trust, to open, to connect, and it all started with a human soldier and an alien companion who'd been forced together, who'd learned to trust despite their differences, and who'd shown the galaxy what was possible when beings chose unity over division. The stars shone beyond the window, cold and distant and beautiful. But the real beauty was here, in this room.
Us.
Watching minds reach across the vastness between them and choose to be one. That was the future. That was what they'd fought for. That was what their bond had unleashed.